Okay, Roger again. As you know, I'm transferring over some of my Mud Fossils channel on YouTube over to Mud Fossil University. Now, this was an earlier one I did on Comet 67P. This goes back to December 2015. And here's what I wrote about it then, and it still holds true. I went a little too deep in it then because it was too early. But now it's time to get this straightened out. Now, I was into mud fossils for several years at this point, very heavily, and into the chemistry and recreated them and all that business. And here's what I wrote about this back then when they were going to Comet 67P. It says 67P, which is being visited by a lander now, has every signature of biological origin. Scans by Rosetta's Virtus instrument, which is short for Visible Infrared and Thermal Imaging Spectrometer, hasn't found any ice at all on the surface of 67P. Instead, a team led by Fabio Prozascini, he's the Italian on the ESA team, reports that the dark exterior is covered with complex carbon-rich organic molecules. And he says this is from biological origin, life, what he said was that the dark exterior is covered with complex carbon-rich organ molecules. And I'm saying this is from biological origin, which is the life cooking in the sunshine. Literally, it's cooking. Now, the gases in the coma are meat smoke. I wrote this 3 years ago. It didn't freak people out. The gases in the coma are meat smoke, according to CDC guidelines. And this, the smoking gun, Comet 67P chemistry. There's 16 organic compounds were identified, divided into 6 classes of organic molecules: alcohols, carbenols, amines, nitrates, amides, and isocyanates. Of these, 4 organic compounds were detected for the first time on any comet, which are these 4 big long names. Now, when I wrote that, I must have freaked these people out, because they did contact me back, you know, the Johnson Space Center and NASA and all these people, but they had a hard time with me, I guess, so they sort of just walked away. Now, here's what I said in the original one. This goes back 3 years or so ago, and I followed it from day one, since they were going up there to see what was going on with this comet. And then when they started taking pictures of it, I knew exactly what it was as soon as I saw it. So here's what I had to say, and then I'm going to bring you up to date. So this goes back to my early times. This is Comet 67P from the Rosetta mission, where they went out to explore this comet with a robot. And they landed on the comet, and they're looking at the comet. Before that, they circled it a bunch of times. Now, what I want you to look at is, here's the structure. It has this neck. It has a... By the way, I was a screen scraper and tapper at that time. I have reformed. Bulbous head, and it has this spiky little bulbous thing on the other end. Now, they're trying to figure out what this is all about. Now, all right, what I want you to look at is these structures right here. You see these little things here? Now, those are not structures of craters or something like that. Those are the patterns of life. And this, I believe, you see this, and then this, and then this, and then that, and then that, and then that. These, I believe, are the layers of muscle. And I believe... All right, that was a mistake. These are the tendon enthesis straps that go up. The muscle begins up here a little further. There's a transitional portion. I believe that is the internal structure that breaks off exactly at the place where tendons turn into muscle. And I'm going to back this out, and I'm going to show you why I say it. And I think this is one gigantic tendon emplacement. Now, you see this stuff here? They're saying, where does the sand and stuff come from? Sand is literally, and I have made this in the lab, sand is literally electroplated. Well, sand is petrified cells, and that's what these are. These are the deteriorated, petrified cells that are they're really blood cells, from the deteriorating fleshy material, which is the weak stuff. This is the plagio stuff, plagio clay stuff, which is tough, 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 tough. If this is what I'm thinking. Now, the stem in between is what brings the plagioclase, which is embedded normally in a bone layer, and it brings the plagioclase, let me back out of here a little further, which is this stuff, and these spiky, see these little spiky things all over it? Those are what you find in plagioclase emplacements of tendons. And that is what holds them into the bone. The bone would be like here. Then you go up into your rubber band that hooks it over into the flesh. And that's what I'm saying this is. Alright, this is from dev.biologist.org. Now, nicely done. And these are not very well understood how these things are built. But this is how they develop the tendons. And this is at this particular time, when I first started into the mud fossil research, the tendon enthesis and the tendon abrupt transitions, the fascia, all of that stuff was really not well understood at all. And now it's starting to become more and more understood. I mean, not because of what I'm doing, but because they're looking more and more at these things in depth. But anyway, this is how these tendons build. And this goes on pretty... This is all very research oriented, so it's going to show you how these things actually happen. I'm not just guessing, so here it is. This is that tendon ball that I showed you, and that's the strap. And as they develop, they build minerals in here so that they can anchor the bone or the muscle or whatever is up in this area, wherever this is going to invest into. Now, the minerals start to get really flaky and plagioclase, and that's, I can show you that in mine. And then this begins to get tubular and a lot of vascular and cellular, and because it's got to be flexible. And then this gets extremely spiky, and then they anchor solid as can be. And then you get all that red stuff all around it that I showed you in my other thing. All right, I've shown this many times. There's enthesis clusters, and they're in every creature where the enthesis of the tendons invest into the meat or the bone, and they do it with these balls. And they see these are now stone balls all over the world. There are thousands and millions of them everywhere, and they're gigantic and they're tiny. They come in all sizes. And what they see is this ring around the outside of the ball, and then there's the inside part that is all flaked out looking, and actually erodes out of the center, and it leaves this a couple of layers. I'll show you that in a second. Might as well do that now. And then all of this red gooey stuff surrounds this, because this is extremely spiky, and it grabs and holds in tight. So you need this fleshy area around it to buffer it from the body, the flesh, or the bone, so you don't dig in with these spikes. Hold on one second. Let me show you the actual pictures of these stone balls. All right, these are the balls that are all over the world, and they come from the enthesis points where they invest into the ligaments and the tendons and the skin muscles. So they're little balls with straps on them. That's what you want to remember. The ball will separate from the strap. All right, that's where the balls separate from the strap. These are abrupt transitions. It means it transitions from the ball, which is held firmly, into the matrix of the body, which literally is clay. Flesh is literally clay. And in the body, it's flexible and so forth. And this holds the strap to wherever it makes the attachment, and then you have the anchor, and the strap goes to your muscle, and you can pull back and forth on it. It's nothing more than an anchorage device. All right, this is what we find on Earth after they break open and they're destroyed. This is that outside layer, and then there would be this red fleshy layer around it, which you can still see here. And then the ball is in the center, which has that, it's a spiky thing that's really, really spiky. And the center appears to be held with sand, literally, silicon dioxide. And this, I believe, turns into what they call chert, and flint. All right, there's some that were in the ocean area. See, they're all over the place, and there's thousands of them everywhere. And inside, because this was just one little attachment point. These creatures were gigantic. In us, you can't even see that hardly with a microscope. Now, this is what happens on the inside of them. They have the crust, and then inside, it has that spiky thing, and it depends on what kind of a condition it found itself in, whether it was in ocean water or in mud or clay or sand or whatever it was. All right, here's clusters, and these are all on the surface of the ground too. So these were not from creatures that died long ago. These are on the surface of the ground. So these creatures died in the Great Flood. I believe it was about 4,300 years ago, somewhere around there. Now, these are the stone balls. Those were the little anchorage points that the straps went from. Of course, they're eroded. They are the weak point, and the stone balls are the strong point. This is a house, and that's a car. Sometimes they turn like this, but that is the crust, and these are the centers. And depending upon how they're invaded and what kind of conditions they end up in, if it's geothermal, or if it's dry, or if it's certain types of transition metals are in the waters, you get different results. And these creatures were enormous. That is a tendon ball. These here, if you can see them, they're sticking out. They also were tendon balls. This was quarried, this area here, and I'm not sure. I believe they took off the limestone fibrils off the top, because there's going to be limestone and so forth. And then they ended up here, and I think they abandoned it at that point. But that was one of those gigantic balls. And that is a tendon ball, and that is the strap that comes down to hold the ball. These were balls here. You see them over here? There's a ball. This is a ball here. They're all over the place. This was the nature. They're all up in here. This was the strap that has not yet eroded. And those are what is found in creatures' bodies. These were literally the earth. These are the tendon mats. That's a tendon mat. And these are those straps that come down, and that is the ball that I just showed you, that gigantic thing. It's pulled away from where it should have been stuck into this cavity here. What it is that ball sticks in the cavity, and then this can pull back and forth because there's a muscle somewhere, and it pulls on this, and it anchors into bones or flesh, and that's what happens here. Now, down in Peru, these big fleshy pads were used to make walls. They broke off these little stumps here, and that's where you see these little bumps on the walls, and these are the walls. And they cut these things when they were wet as well. There was advanced people here after the Great Flood, and they mined all of this gigantic tendinous and fleshy materials from the earth and built walls out of it. These are the machines they used. They had tire tracks, then they had tank treads as part of it. They knew what they were going to do. They were going to mine this wet, fleshy material, which in this case was a tendon. And they drove over this stuff and then cut slabs over the edge here with the machines. They cut in and down, cut in and down, cut in and down, and then they moved those to make walls. There's a smoking gun here. There's the tendon. These are the slabs they cut out. These are the walls they made with the slabs. The reason they fit together so well is they were wet when they put them in there. They were still like putty. By the way, that's not the only place they used that vehicle. That's the same vehicle used somewhere else. All right, there's a tendon, and that is a tire track. You see that? You see that? That tire was a four-wheeler and drove right up over the top of that when this was still wet. And that is the bloody synovial sheath, which is the slippery tube that these things slide in when you're alive. And that they make this little grainy pattern. I'll show you Achilles tendon. But this was driven over shortly after the thing started to dry out. And these things were soaked in the Great Flood for a long duration of time, which removed all the highly volatile stuff that makes them rot. And then when they hit this dryness, they just dried out and turned into stone. They call it mineralization. Now, you saw those fibrous looking things. That's what tendons do. They have tiny, tiny, tiny little fibers. And all of the places around the world where you see these hex looking fibers that are, they call them basalt, hex column basalt from volcanism, absolutely not. That is tendon fibers. All right, this is tendon, and they make these little fibers, and the fibers run continuously. All right, and that's what they end up being, these little hex fibers, and they are made out of CaCO3, which is what you see Devil's Tower and all that. That is CaCO3, calcium carbonates, with porphyritic fibrils in there, which is the things that add structure to the tendons. So it's not clear limestone. Clear limestone is CaCO3 with no porphyritics in there. It's strictly clear limestone because it's made from shells of sea creatures. But the limestone that comes out of your body, the same type of stuff, connective tissues, CaCO3, it has additional kaolin clays for the synovial sheaths and so forth. It has some blood in there, and it will have some other fibers in there. And it comes in these long, extended, hexagon-shaped fibers. That's what it is. And they come extremely large. These are those fibers, and these are people climbing in them. This is the tendon fibrils on Mars. These are the tendon fibers on Earth. They are, and they're also on Comet 67P. The entire universe is nothing more than 100% life. And every comet that or every meteorite that I have found that entered Earth, and I have meteorites in my hand, and I know they are from life, and I have them seen them all over the internet with the blood vessels in them, and they are there's life here on Earth from space that we could test right now, and I'll show you right now one that we could test right this instant. All right, there's a meteorite came through, cooked up, and right here, that's where the red blood side. That is the tendon enthesis point right there. That's a tendon enthesis. And that side blew out because the red blood was in there. It boiled off and exploded out of here. But in that red oxide's in here, we could drill in there and get blood out of here that would have DNA in it. I can almost guarantee it. This is the vein side that it does not blow out. That turns hard. The red side boils and blows out, as you can see. And the rest of it is just patterned from coming through space. Now, I believe these come through during the dark times at night, where they are not cooked up in the ionosphere by the sun's additional impact of ether, and that's all been, I have evidence about that as well. But that's why these don't turn into cinders, some of them. Anybody that knows mud fossils knows that that's an artery. That's an artery, the red artery, and that is, the vein is around here somewhere. I believe that's the vein, the black one. These are blood vessels. They call them chondrules. They're blood vessels. They're little tiny blood vessels. That's the main artery, and that is the return, and that also could be a return vein. But this is life, oldest solid material in the solar system. They got to be kidding. That is from life. That's all there is to it. Now that's a meteorite, but that is from life, no question. This is an iron meteorite. Comes through. These are lungs or hearts. When they come through, they are so saturated with iron from blood, because both of those two things are in the pulmonary system, cardiopulmonary system. They're just fully loaded with blood, ferrous oxides. Now, that's the black ferrous oxide, FeO2, which is the vein blood, and that's the red vein blood, FeO3. You can see it's brilliant red. They cook coming through the atmosphere. They smelt just like they do in a foundry, and they turn into primarily iron with impurities. But blood is so tenuous that you can see that it's maintained And I'm sure it's going to have whatever life was in there is still going to be in there as far as DNA goes. That's an iron meteorite, and it's a lung. Gigantic lung, came through space. All of the vascular areas inside the cavities boiled off and burnt off. And now they're displaying it like it's something that just is nothing. Well, that is a lung that came through space. And there's another meteorite. They call it a rocky, stony meteorite, or a chondrites, whatever they call it. But that is not. That is the vein side, and this was the artery. The artery has blown out the blood and is clear. That happens frequently, or sometimes it maintains the redness. And that's the black side, which is the vein return. All right, there's the stone balls that we find all over Earth, and those are from investments into skin. And the reason I can say that it's into skin is because that would have been laying all over this lower layer of skin, and these would have been thousands and thousands and thousands of little straps running all in between here. And I'll show you that because the same structure is on Mars, and it did not erode like they erode here. Here they erode and all the straps erode away, and these things all roll around into piles. Up there, it's a sand, a windy erosion. There's not that rain and the violent erosion we have here. So let me show you that. All right, this is the same thing on Mars. These are skin patterns on Mars. The straps and balls are quite clear. You can see the little balls, and you can see a strap runs from each little ball. And they weave in this pattern, which gives you a fabric. It can do all this stuff and return right back to where it's supposed to be, because this would have been layered with clay of your flesh, because your flesh is a clay, wet, puttyish clay, and it coats these kind of fabrics in your body, and that gives you the ability to move around. They can move and come back to where they're supposed to until you get real old like me, and then they stop moving. But out there in space, in Mars, in the atmosphere of Mars, which doesn't have a lot of rain and so forth, to erode all the erodible straps. Some of the straps eroded. They're on the higher spots where the wind blows and blew off the strappy parts and left the balls. But this is the investment of skin. That is what sits in the areolar tissue. It's in a matrix of skin, flesh, and that's what gives you the flexibility to move your flesh. All right, let's see what we got here. We'll just keep going. And that's how they anchor. And once they go bad, they break in a certain place. It's right outside of the tendon ball, because there's like 4 or 5 different chemical transitions. I don't know if they fully even understand this yet, but my stuff breaks in the exact same spot every time, every tendon. It just never fails. And it's always in the transition between the extremely mineralized tendon as it goes into the gushier, muscular tissue. All right, now you're going to have to look a little bit and think a little bit about this. You see this structure right here? It's sort of a circle with a hole in the center, and this sort of is a circle with a hole in the center. These are some form of bundles or tendons. I believe they're tendinous material, but they form these little balls. They're bundles. All right, since this goes back several years, so since these little bundles here are the tendon fibrils, and they go in this is the nature of each one of them. And inside of here, there's a bloody little area that services them. Now, and they break at these abrupt transitions. What else was I going to tell you about? Oh, and these are the exact same things that you will see in Comet 67P in a circular little place in the center. And I say, here's where all these fibers are. I'll see if I can point it out when we come to it. Now, I want you to look at this. Down here is... Oh, wait, there it is right here. Comet 67P. And I want you to look at those structures right there. You see those? I'm saying this is a tendon emplacement, and I'm saying that these are the same as the broken fibers that I just showed you on the specimen that I have here in my shop. Now, watch this. As I back up from this specimen, I'm going to back away from it, or I'm going to twist around from it because this is amazing what happens. Now, as I move up the fibers, all of a sudden, see, they're like little, they look like boards, you know. That is the identical same pattern that you see in the tendon, Achilles tendon that I showed, the raw one. It is that same thing, and it is also the same pattern that you see on top of those mounds that they were excavating when they were still wet down in Peru. And this right here will be the abrupt transition where these anchor into literally a glue that holds these into a connection between here and flesh. And these break exactly straight across, and this is what they found at Baalbek. Those are the Baalbek tendons. You know, and then all of a sudden, bang, look at that. You see that? Look at that. Now, this white stuff, you see that? That's mineral. These things are extremely mineralized. And they make these little patterns, you know, they're almost like little crop circles and things. But anyway, as you go up further, up to tendon, all right, this is the gooey spot between the fibrils. Then you go to the gooey, and then you go up into the muscle that you can you'll be able to see what it's like. You get this material. Let me see if I can focus this in a little better. See how it's red, black? You always have red and black. See this material here? See, everything's striated, and I have to block the light coming in from the side. Now, you see this reddish stuff? That's all there's some kind of blood investment here. And this is a transition, and my stuff breaks at a certain spot, and every one of them. I always wondered why. And I see this exact same structure in the Giant's Causeway and a lot of places, and I'll show you that later. Now, you see these things? This is Finnegal's Cave is the same thing as this. You'll see they come up to a marbly looking stuff above these straight patterns, and they're all over the earth. I'm literally all over the earth. Vascular stuff, that's blood. That's where the blood is servicing these things. Now, I'm going to go a little further up, and you're going to see what happens now. It says, okay, what are we going to do? From the tendons, we have to make a transition into the muscle. And here comes the muscle. Now, this you'll be able to notice. And so you're going to have another sort of, and here comes the muscle fiber. The black and the white, or, you know, it's brown and white or whatever color it is, but that's muscle fiber. Now, I'm going to home in on this a little better if I can. Now, you still see minerals in there and things, but it takes on this band of fibers, and they weave into each other, and they still get service with blood here and there, and then it goes off that way, and it broke off on this end too. But this is the identical, you see these things here? This is the identical structure you see on Mars. I was going to say on Mars, not everywhere. It's every planet has the same thing. Now, this is the muscle fibers that come out. You see how specific the body is? This is the more mineralized, and then it gets right here to this abrupt transition. Then, you know, because this is magnified. Then it gets into this less mineralized, and then it broke off at this transition. Then it goes into a little more, and then it gets into completely red flesh. You see everywhere, and these are the blood service holes, and what that is iron, and iron rusts out of here, and that's why it's the red planet, and it's what it is what it is. I didn't make it up, it's just what it is. Okay, this is Comet 67P, and this is from a place called Cosmos News, and they're trying to explain the occurrences and the structures and so forth, and just listen to this now. Listen to what they have to say.
Investigator on Rosetta's OSIRIS instrument. They are really strange. The pits can be found clustered in just a few regions on the comet's surface. There are small groups of them on both the head and body of the rubber duck-shaped comet, but nearly all of them appear in the comet's northern hemisphere.
All right, I want I'm going to just show you something here. I'm probably going to say it again, but because I forgot what I did say in this video. But these are the things shooting out. These jets, they're shooting out of the blood vessels because the blood that's inside there is literally boiling and spewing these molecules out into space. You see this? Boom, 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 all the way around. That is the spiky little things that hold that into the bone or into the muscle that it was connected to, and then that is the stalk, and then it comes up into where it broke off, the abrupt transition from the meat, and then it would have gone into who knows what from there. I just mentioned this. The reason for this is those circular structures are the product of tendons.
On Rosetta's OSIRIS instrument have spotted dark jets shooting out of some of the deeper depressions, but those that are more shallow do not seem to be active. The authors explain that these large punctures could not have been made by impacts, because they have the wrong size distribution, and you wouldn't expect to see that many impact craters on a body as small as Comet 67P. They wondered if the pits might have formed as a result of the melting of frozen materials on the comet's surface.
Alright, these structures that you're seeing here, those are the patterns of, they're almost like pine cone patterns. The patterns of the pine cones on the surface of the cone. Not only that, you see these are the hex shapes. If you follow them around, you could figure it out if you look close enough. I call them pine cone patterns back then, but they're hex shapes. And the other holes that they're talking about, the circular straight down holes they think might be sinkholes, those are actually vascular investments, blood vessels, veins, arteries, that type of thing. Okay, this is that one there. I have the identical same one here. The identical, and here it is. It's not close, it's identical. I might be showing this again, because I, again, can't remember what I did, but this is it right here. That's it. That's it. It's the identical same one. That's the ball. Comes down to here. This is that thing right there. The little holes in there are the holes that service it for the blood. This is the red stuff. I think I showed this before. And then there's the neck coming up to the stalk. Same identical thing. On the Rosetta mission, this particular structure they're looking at, and he's saying, look at this, how white this is, and then now look at these transitions coming down like this. Look at this specifically, and look at this flat spot. Now look at the way this planes out, and then you get this shape here coming around the edges, all the way around the edges. Now look at this stalk coming up, similar to this. Okay, now look at the dusty sort of particulates that are around here as well. Now I'm going to show you a product of life, which this is as well, but I'm going to show you what I have here, and it can be examined to see if the same chemicals are there. And this is it right here. Alright, now let me put a light on this. Now I just showed you what you have there. Now let me get this down carefully so this can be seen. That is that flat spot. Now as I rotate it down, you see these, oops, let me just do this with my finger. You can see these are the identical same structures coming down. If you look over here, well, as a matter of fact, you can see there's another stalk up here on the other side, exactly as the other one has. You see these structures coming down, and then you see the ball around, and that ball is this right here. If you could, it's hard to see this. Let me see if I can get a little better light in it. This stuff right here is a spiky plagioclase material, and it is as hard gets. It's mineralized, and that is the investment of a tendon. This is a tendon assembly, and when you get back up into this area, this was in apparently was burnt up for, I don't know how, but anyway, that's how it happened. There's a strap and it's like a rubber band, a round rubber band that's very, very vascular and very cellular, and it's boiled off, as you can see. But that is a flexible strap that attaches to this ball, and that's the stalk that it comes in on, and then that ball invests in bone, and that is what that's what holds, the spikes hold it in. You see this whole thing is one ball. This ball right here, that is the tendon ball. And it's fully understood, and I'm going to show you an anatomical rendering of it. And all of the blood vessels are here, and all the other topography of that comet is life. And I have it, and I can show it, and then the chemicals will be the same. And all this dusty stuff, that's not dust, and it's not sand that they're talking about. That is the petrified cellular structure of skin. All right, this is Google Earth. This is Utah. Well, I don't know what I'm going into here, but I'll cut out for now. All right, well, I'm going to put this in because it shows the same structures are here on Earth. Now, let's watch it and I'll explain. This is in Utah, Arizona. Now, you see all these, I guess they call it buttes or whatever, these big tall structures in these flatlands. Look closely. Let me show you something. You see all this red stuff? How red it is out there? You see around these structures around the structures, this red stuff? You see around them? Now let me show you a little closer. Let's pay real close attention to what that structure really looks like. And let's take a look at this one right here. All right, before we go into this, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think this is. These are a ton of tendon straps coming up, and then where they met the red muscle, it broke off, and it is all eroded everywhere. And when you see what's in this is made of, it's those tendon fibrils coming straight up, and you can see where the abrupt transition was. It broke off, and this is the flesh, and they are all up and down this whole area. So watch. Alright, you see what's coming out here? That would have been a strap. That's the ball. Circular pattern there. See how perfect that is? You see how perfect that is? You see how spiky that is? It's like a little spiky looking thing. You see that? That didn't just happen by accident. That is a tendon emphasis point. That's exactly how they invest. Same thing with this one, same thing with this. That is actually muscle fibers. And it appears that it broke this way and it eroded the stuff out. There is all kinds of plagioclase material this way. All right, I'm going to just stop right here. You see what's coming out here? That is the tendon fibrils. You can even see the shadow of them broken off. This is where they broke off, and the rest of that stuff erodes because it is the soft red flesh. And you know, you'll have little chunks and bits of minerals here and there, but you lose this strappiness. So, and these are the... you see, it was all down here. So muscle fibers, and they possibly, I believe these are muscle fibers. And these are the actual, if you looked at a textbook, it would look exactly like that. It has these little bands, and then it's covered by this little sheathing. Now, if you follow this out, you see where all the blood leaks out to, and it surrounds it. Now look at this. This here is another one. Look at the structure of it. Look at this didn't just happen by accident, this perfect architecture with these little teeth-looking things. Now look at this. Watch in here. Look at that. You see it? Nobody went up there and carved that. You see that? You know what that is? That's the tendon investment. That sweeps up from where this ball invests in... That was the ball. Muscle, or I mean in bone. And then it transitions over a little of this, a little of that. And then it starts going up these little wispy, pointy looking things. You see it? You see them? I have the same exact things. You see this structure how right here? They make look like you see these points, Chinese finger trap. They're all over. Points. They're everywhere. Now, you see how, look at these points. This is the way these transitions work. And that is a tendon emphasis. You see that stuff? That is the the tendon fibers when they turn into tendon fibers. All right, this is from a huge fingertip that was CAT scanned and DNA tested, and it's proven 100% human, and it's completely obvious in the CAT scan, which was done by Jesse Garant and Associates. Excellent job, 3D CAT scan, and I will show you that. Now, here is the vein structure. Now, I'm going to go deep into this. Now, watch. Remember the thing that's up on 67P, I think it is. Now, I'm going to try to go inside here. They call them Dragon Balls. You see them? There they are. They're all over inside, and that's exactly what happens with blood. Blood crystallizes like that in like almost like a cellular manner. The identical same thing is up in Russia too. Identical, no difference whatsoever. These holes are the vascular entries of the planet and of life and of comets and of everything. And what's bleeding out of here is those little bloody balls, and when the sun focuses in there, it cooks them and shoots off jets. And that is the... All right, this is a similar surface that you see on 67P. All right, now, if you look at this here, and this is 67P again, Comet 67P coming in, and it's getting bombarded with radiation. And you look at where the jets are going. They're even coming out from the front and so forth. So I started thinking about that. Well, why aren't they trailing off behind? Well, this makes sense. Because whatever is spewing out of here is coming along with it. There's no atmosphere here to hold the stuff back and for it to trail into. So, you know, I can see it spewing out, and as it just comes out of this mist, eventually it will overtake this stuff. But this I can explain. Now, I don't think, though, that it's water. I don't think that this is ice and water, and these guys don't either. By the way, it's aromatic polycyclic hydrocarbons, I believe that is what they called it, which is uncombusted meat smoke. And by the way, the astronauts, when they walk in space, when they come back in, their suits smell like steak, they say. This Rosetta continues to shatter dirty snowball mist. This is not water. Something else is going on here. This is radiation from solar bombardment of vortex particles, which is they're electrons spinning at a high-speed vortex. And something is going on here with that kind of a discharge. And they spew out of the dark side of these as well. And that I can possibly understand because these are vascular systems. There's all kinds of little vascular tubes in here. And if they do that X-ray, or however they can look through this thing, if they can look through it very well, I don't know what kind of detail, but if they can, they will see exactly what I'm saying, and there's going to be vascular networks, and there's going to be striations of the hard muscle and the soft muscle, and yada yada. It's going to be all that stuff. It's all going to be there. All right, I'm going to just stop it there because that was that video, but there's been a lot of research done since then. It is 100% organic. That is confirmed by NASA. I have other videos about this. NASA understands. European Space Agency understands. Johnson Space Center understands that this is a biological entity. Now, at that point, they go dark because they just cannot deal with this. This upsets everything there is in science and physics and space and the planetary cosmology, Big Bang. It all is off the table now. This is 100% life. This is now time to pursue this for what it is. All right, this is a newer one that I did, and it gives more. It's Comet 67P, confirmed organic by NASA. This is when they really put out the information. This goes back in November 2016. So, and then they destroyed the lander, and then they just forgot about it. It seems to me, I don't see anything about it anymore. It's just totally off the shelf. But it's so obvious what it is. It is life. It's life. It's life out there. They keep, where are we alone? Oh, we can't find anything. We have no idea. They refuse to open their eyes. That is the issue. And I wish anybody can contact me. You could take the You try and see what's in this. I've done DNA tests on all my other stuff. I'm not doing any more because nobody pays any attention. All right, there's the chemistry that's on Comet 67P. Sodium, silicon, hydrogen, carbon, 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 carbon. It's all over the place. This is the identical chemistry of life. And they even said it's so complex organically that they can't even figure out how to give it a name. Well, the name is life. They just can't open up their eyes big enough. There's 3 DNA tests in here. And these were done with the highest order of magnitude that you can do as far as the way it was done very, very well. The no contamination, and it was done with all of the top clean ancient DNA extraction kit and all this business. So no, don't go with the contamination. Oh, it's just silly. It is not silly. It's for 100% real. And all of this stuff was done meticulously. Positive, positive, positive. Negative controls negative. Same thing. Negative, negative. One of them had extremely high density, which was the lung, was virtually like came out of the box yesterday, and the other ones had a little less density, but still pretty dense for ancient DNA, and it's exactly what he said. And then it goes through, and I have a, and they came out Homo sapien mitochondrial, Homo sapien mitochondrial, cytochrome B and D-loop region and so forth. Now, and then, I mean, this is very detailed, and it was certified by the lab instructor, and I have a discussion with him pertaining to this. And let's see if I can throw this up here real quick. Oops. See, whenever I do something quick, I do it slow. Okay, DNA discussion. Now, this was
certain amount. You can only get a certain amount of base pairs normally.
Right, usually 100 to 200 tops because the DNA is so fragmented.
Just for my own benefit, I went ahead here. As I'm listening to him, I am showing some of my specimens, and I won't bother to talk about them, but I'll just let them play.
Because of just the, the degradation, with all the
that was the
years,
real good one.
Wear and tear and things like that.
Yeah.
But I was able to, locate these primers that were in that paper that this group had success with, and that seemed like the best option. And the, mitochondrial DNA primer that will essentially amplify all types of vertebrates. So, not just human, but any kind of vertebrate life form. And so they were sort of a universal type of fit for these samples, because we don't know obviously what the samples consist of. So the sequence that came back, and it was roughly for each of these fragments about 100 base pairs, matched them up in the database, and they matched with the human mitochondrial. There's 2 regions of the mitochondria. One is called the D, like the letter D is in dog, the D loop. And then the other one, I believe, is for cytochrome B gene. The mitochondria has several different genes that it consists of, but these primers were specific for those areas of the mitochondrial genome. So, so I, considering where we, started a couple months ago, that's, those are nice results to have.
Yeah, that's kind of amazing.
The PCR and now the DNA sequencing, so.
Wow, and how refined down is this? I mean, it's in the human genome family, meaning it's not a monkey or a primate. I mean, it's a primate, but how refined it is?
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, in the database it's showing, for that region of sequence that I obtained for these fragments, that they match up with, 100% identity to, the human mitochondrial genome. Again, the D loop, and I believe the other region was cytochrome B. I'm not.
All right, I'm not going to bother going anymore. It was 100%. There's no question whatsoever. And a modern human. Now, all of this stuff that I'm testing and finding is on the surface of the Earth. on the surface, not below, not digging down, on the surface. Now, this was with the stuff that I made here in my lab that was the same mud fossil process, and I did it naturally, so it's nothing that's even hard to do. And this only took about less than 6 months, I think. And it's I have another video that I've done, and it may even be in here, showing how the petrification process works and so forth. And these are all old videos, so I'm bringing them up to modern, you know, I'm putting them in the university, Mud Fossil University system here, because nobody's seen these. I mean, I don't think there's, what is 2,500 views since, you know, about 3 years. So they weren't seen. Some of them have like less than 100 views, 3, 4 years, 5 years maybe even. So anyway, we're going to put them up on the Mud Fossil University, and because it's all good research, it's all valid, it's all shown to be totally correct.